Oh, so I thought it was you, Dom.
I was looking at you. I thought you could lead us.
Oh, well, I will. I'll lead you and guide you with Claire Pearsall, former government advisor, and showbiz reporter Stephanie Tecci, who are here to take us through the papers this morning. What are we starting with?
Well, this one's caught my eye, Stephanie. Mother and father are now seen as oppressive words.
Oh, my gosh. I don't know what kind of world we're kind of heading to, but there's this taxpayer-funded aid organisation called Scotland's International Development Alliance, and they're saying that we should avoid using words such as mother, father, girls, guys, and they're saying that these terms are quite oppressive. They said they reinforce existing power structures that have to convey respect, and
Power structure in our household was our mother's in charge.
Thank you. And they're saying that we should be using words instead such as parent or guardian.
Give over.
There's no way I could call my mum parent.
Got a big beep.
Oh, is it me?
No, I
beeping?
apologise, we've got a lot of tone. Try and ignore the tone. Oh, we're getting rid of it.
But yeah, there's no way I could call my mum or dad parent, come here. I just think, why waste taxpayers' money into things like this? It's just making a problem where there is no problem. You know, I think it's actually good to have that respect of calling your mother mother or your father father.
Yeah.
So it makes no sense, and I think...
I mean, I tend to say mother and father.
Do you? You do, actually.
Yeah, it was always one of those, as you grew up, so I always used to say mum, and then as you grow up, you say mother, and you do it in a slightly jokey way, and my child has picked up on that as well. I used to be mummy for years and years, and now I'm not. I am just mother.
Yeah, but I like
sort of look.
I like it. Mother's Day. We're not allowed Mother's Day anymore, then, or Father's Day.
And I just don't understand why there's this, you know, almost conspiracy or this campaign to get rid of gendered terms. I think it's sometimes there's signs of words of endearment, but the company organisation says they're not trying to ban these words, but they just want to think of terms which are more appropriate.
Right. You all have an opinion on that one.
Yeah, how much more appropriate is mother or father?
Yeah. Or girl or boy.
Girl or boy. Descriptive terms that we're going to ban now. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
That is ridiculous, frankly. Claire, what's going on in terms of misogyny and sexism in boys and young men? This is in The Guardian this morning.
Yeah, I think this is quite interesting. This is the leader of the largest education union has called for an independent inquiry into the rise in misogyny in boys and young men, but it's saying it should not be left to parents and schools to police. Now, I disagree with that part of it, because I think primarily this stems from behaviour in the home. And how somebody is brought up as to how they behave. But also I think that schools really do have a place, because children will always act differently when they're away from their parents, when they're with their friends, when they're in those kind of really high-stress environments, such as a school. Their behaviour is sometimes appalling, and it needs to be called out. So, I mean, I don't know if this is necessarily a rise in misogyny or we're just better at noticing it.
I don't know, there has been it's the Andrew Tate thing.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people talk about Andrew Tate, and some people defend him. I decided to investigate myself and have a look at it. Well, just by looking at his Twitter feed.
Yeah.
I mean,
Did you put him on mute?
I mean, honestly, I was appalled by some of the things he was saying about women. But he's got loads of women who support him, which is what I find totally confusing.
Definitely, but I agree with Claire. I think it stems from what boys are seeing at home in terms of, you know, as an older woman, when I do meet a man who I see is quite aggressive towards women or is sexist, I realise it probably stems from his childhood and how his mother, how his interactions were with his mother, or how his father treated his mother. And I think as well in the classrooms, it's not in the curriculum where we examine that interaction between boys and girls, because that's where it all stems from as well, how boys are treated, taught how to respect women.
You're not an older woman.
Yeah, don't just fight yourself.
Stop
Silly
it.
sausage.
Stop it. I'm a medium chicken.
Another point to make here is that we do know that children, young boys especially, they are accessing with smartphones porn at a really young age. I mean, you're hearing of boys as young as 9, 10, accessing explicit photos and videos online. And that will be feeding into this misogyny that they are digesting.
It will, and there is a place for a clampdown with the big tech firms as to how they manage their platforms, what content they have available. But again, this comes back to the fact that parents are putting a phone into a young person's hand.
Yep.
Are they putting parental controls? And trust me, that's not easy. You're really, really seriously unpopular with your child when you do it. But there has to be a sense of responsibility being taken. You can ask the government to do some stuff, you can look at big tech, but really, if you're the parent, that's down to you.
Yeah.
And children are just too smart these days. I think from the age of about 6 or 7, they can work out how to get rid of those parental locks and just figure out to access the content they want. So this is where, you know, I think fathers need to have that really good conversation with their sons and daughters to see how they are both interacting with both sexes as they're growing up.
Now, here's something for you, Stephanie.
Ooh.
Here's a question for tonight, Stephanie. Will you choose Stephen from Cumbria, Ellie from Essex, or Claire from Kent?
Can I have all 3?
His Blind Date is coming back.
Blind Date is back. So, you know, we've seen on TV there's just been this revival of shows coming back, such as Gladiators, and behind this has been Dan Baldwin, who's married to Holly Willoughby. And he done a recent interview, and he said that the next thing on his list is Blind Date. And he's hoping it wouldn't come back to ITV, where Cilla Black hosted it for 18 years. It was such a classic show. I absolutely loved it. It was more likely we'll be going on to BBC, and maybe with Claudia Winkleman presenting the show. It did come back came back in 2017 on Channel 5 when Paul O'Grady hosted it for 2 years. So I think it will be a good show to have back on.
That sounds great. I'd watch that.
It's Saturday night entertainment, and I think, you know, a lot of TV execs are finding that the old stuff works with viewers at home, you know.
If it ain't broke.
Except, I don't know, because Bradley Walsh, and I think it's Bradley Walsh doing it. I love Bradley Walsh, but they're bringing back Blankety Blank with him, and I saw them. They did like a pilot series of that, and it was awful.
And that's the problem, isn't it? When something was such a favourite, and I mean, I remember watching that years and years ago, and you had Terry Wogan.
Oh, yeah.
It was just one of the best, just the ultimate presenter of that show.
Yeah.
And there've been a sort of a number of different people, but they've all sort of put their own spin on it. And I'm not sure that you can bring that back. It's a little bit nostalgic.
Yeah.
And then when you don't want somebody to spoil it. And I do worry a bit with Blind Date. It was one of those programmes.
It's Cilla's Black programme, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cilla Black was sort of made that show, and we all tuned in and we all watched it, and it was the conversation of the day following. But is it going to ruin it? And I really worry.
Yeah.
I don't know. We shall see. You never know. It might be a huge hit.
With a new generation.
Well, this is a new generation. I'd like to see Celebrity Squares back, but I always liked Celebrity Squares. Anyway, right. See you two a little bit later on. Thank you very much indeed. Here's
Let's
your
take a
weather.
look at the weather.